Hello there my friends, you are watching Galharen channel and this is a new painting video. Today I'm gonna show you how I have painted this Dark Angel's Knight from the scratch. There are some particular areas I want to focus on and I will talk about them in details. So let's join me and have fun. I have divided the video into 4 parts where I will present you how I have painted the Tabard, the Armour, the golden and the silver non-metallic elements. But firstly, let's start with the model choice. As a base, I have used the body of the Space Marine Ancient from the Indomitus box, some 3D printed parts and the candles from the Greenstuff world, to set the theme of the Templar Knight. Also, the model is heavily inspired by the Luther from the Black Library novels from the Horus Heresy era. I filled the gaps with the milliput and I base coated the model with the Chaos Black spray. Chapter 1. The Tabard. To begin with the Tabard, I have decided to go with some dark brown greyish tones, and as a base color I have used the dark amber from GSW, applied as a zenithal highlight with an airbrush. The paint was diluted with the airbrush thinner from Vallejo by adding a few drops to the paint. Coyote Brown is the paint which follows in the second step. As you can see, I'm highlighting the upper parts of the body, strengthening the zenithal highlight effect. This paint adds a warm tone to the tabard, and this is the direction I want to go into. I have always liked the vision of the hooded Dark Angels, more like a monk or the Templar Knight, both in the 40k and the Horus Heresy. To create the bigger contrast, I have mixed the dark amber with the scorched wood, and I apply it in the shadows and at the bottom of the tabard. Scorched wood has a bit of the red tint in it, and I hope it will make the material even more interesting. The deepest shadows and the biggest contrast were achieved by using the diluted black ink with some airbrush thinner. This ink is transparent, so when it dries it gives us a smooth transition from the shadows to the highlights, done with the Coyote Brown. Before I proceed with the edge highlighting and other brushwork, I need to paint the armor with the black paint. I was a bit lazy and I didn't mask it, so now I have to be careful. Normally I always recommend to paint the deepest elements at first, so you don't have to struggle with reaching them with the brush, when all other elements around are already painted. In the following step I want to use the oil wash, so before that I need to cover the model with the gloss varnish. Why? Well, firstly to protect the paint, and secondly the gloss varnish, thanks to its properties, creates a smooth surface which lets the oil wash to flow more easily. As you can see, the black lining divides the elements from each other and it creates a more 3D effect. After that, I'm introducing another paints to achieve the final effect, which are the Ivory Tusk mainly and the Moonstone Grey. First of all, I want to edge highlight the tabard, and this simple step makes the painting much more interesting. Also, I'm adding a bit of texture to the tabard, highlighting the elements with some dots or brush strokes in different directions, and at this stage I'm fine with the effect. Chapter 2 – The Armour. As I have already mentioned, the model is inspired by the Horus Heresy era, when the Dark Angels wore the black armor, and I'm painting my legion using basically the mix of the black paint, black stallion in this case, and the tropical turquoise. Quite unusual combo, but I don't want the armor to look grey by adding simply the white paint. I am highlighting the armor focusing on the edges, but I don't want to make the simple edge highlight. I want to have some light reflections on other areas too. I am building the transition by adding more turquoise to the mix, and in the same time I am blending the colors together. Black armor can be very easy as well as very hard to paint. The more interesting effect we want to achieve, the more different colors we need to introduce to sell the black effect by the contrast of the tones. Final reflections are made by mixing the turquoise with the white paint, and the last touches are made with the pure white paint. This way we have built the light reflection on the shiny black armor. Chapter 3 – The gold non-metallic metal. First of all, I have already painted the parts which are supposed to be gold with the base tone, which is the bestial brown, at the stage before the oil wash, so that it won't be necessary to repeat the process. Now with the leather brown, which has a beautiful warm and saturated tone, I am building already the lighter reflections. The main idea is that the light comes from above, so it indicates me where should I put my highlights. I do it rather rough and quickly, as in the next step I'm going to use the sepia ink to smooth out the transitions between colors. I use it directly from the bottle without adding any water or thinner. I apply it all over the areas where the two different brown paints meet and blend them together. I proceed with adding the ivory tusk to the leather brown so that I get a nice warm yellowish tone, and I continue with the highlights. This process is followed by the final highlights on the top spots and edge highlightings using the pure ivory tusk and white paint. It is a very simple formula and it works quite well, so go ahead and try it yourself. Chapter 4 – The Silver Non-Metallic Metal Sword. In this part I will present you the way how I have painted the sword using the non-metallic metal effect. As a base color I have mixed the black and the slate grey in a ratio around 50-50 on my wet palette, and I covered the blade. After that I have used the moonstone grey to indicate and paint the areas where I will put my highlights. At the beginning it looks more like a sketching, going back and forth with the highlights and blends. Here you can see this process very clearly as I speeded it up so you can see how the blending effect is progressing. The more diluted paint, the more layers you will need to apply, but the effect will be much smoother. Finally, I am using the pure white paint to make the final reflections. To sell the effect properly, always remember to highlight the edges. It creates the effect of the sharpness. Also, this is supposed to be the power sword, so I decided to show it somehow more, by adding a little OSL effect. Using the plasmatic bolt speed paint, I have covered the diodes and I made a small halo around them. This will add an extra interesting factor to the blade. Also, using the white paint, I have painted some tiny lightnings coming from the energy source, which give the last extra touch to the final effect. And here you can see how the model looks like when it is attached to the base. There is still a backpack missing, which I decided to change. I took the more Horus Heresy themed backpack from the new MK3 box. Now we need to bind the model with the base together by adding some light reflections from candles. To make it, I have used the following paints: the Ember Orange, the Flaming Orange and the Go Mango from GSW. I have recorded my initial approach of the OSL on the blade, but in the later stage I repainted it as I was not convinced in 100% on the light placing. However, I want to show you how I have done it at the beginning. And this is it, the final effect of the painted model. This will be an amazing addition to my Dark Angels army, and I'm very happy how it turned out. I want to make a small scenic base as well in the near future, so if you are interested to see the process, let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe the channel and like this material. Your support is very important to me. You can find my tutorials on my Patreon page and more of my materials on my social media like Instagram or Facebook. See you soon and take care.